There we go. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So, let me see. First of all, yes. Let me open the chat. Give me a second. There we go. Place it here. Good morning. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to all of you. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Yes. So, as usual, before we start, do you have any question, any problem? I mean, 3ds Max related, of course. Things that you want to ask me? Good morning. If you have questions, now or never, because today we have to study a lot of unbelievable things. Plus, I need to explain you what to do exactly for your final project. There is something that would be fantastic, I will say. Okay. So no problems, nothing. But that is great. That is, I mean, something that makes me unbelievably happy. So, give me 5 minutes of your attention so that I will explain what to do exactly next week. That will be this. So, next week should be final submission. But actually, one question. No! Ask me. Hurry up! Do it instead of run! Also, if you look that I'm looking there, is that because I have another screen so that where is the chat? Ask me! Hurry up! How can I divide a box that I extrude? What does it mean? Define like divide in the middle. Let me see. You make a box. Oops. Default shading here. Edged faces. So you apply edit poly. Okay. And then let's say you make things like inset. Okay. Then extrude. Exactly. And now you say, look, I want to divide it here. Okay? Is it true? You want to basically, let me draw on top of it. You want to cut this thing like that. And then, if I got the question, you need these to be two split elements. Like you want to have something like this and something like that. So you want to keep also both pieces. Is it true or not? Is this your goal? Just half. No, that is too easy. Ah, come on. No, it's too easy. So you want to delete half of it. Where is the problem? Look. You go to snaps, you click midpoint. Okay, the important is midpoint, nothing else. Then, come on. No, that was too easy. So, you make this gigantic box and you move it, let's say, from its midpoint. So you move it from its midpoint here to this midpoint there, so that this is half. Now you select your edit poly. You go to compound, ProBoolean, subtraction, start picking, boom. No. You said you want just 1/2. Or if you just want to divide it, no. I don't know, you want to challenge me, I know, I understand. So in that case, again, just go to midpoint as a snap, then just right click on your edit poly, right click, cut, and cut midpoint, 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 midpoint. Okay? This is one way. Okay? Another way is, and this would be phenomenal, select these, select edges, and this will work only if your object is perfectly symmetrical. You select edges, you select all edges that are perpendicular to the cut that you want to do. Okay? With all these edges connected, but they must be them all, you use connect and you make one segment only. You click OK. Boom! And you have same exact result. This works only if the object is perfectly symmetrical, because if it is not symmetrical, these are not straight. That's it. I know, I'm too good. I know. Okay, so let's finish today. So question time is finished. Let me explain all things that we have to know for next week first. So next week will be May 18th. Technically, you should upload your final for that day, but I'm too good. So in order to also don't waste next 2 hours so next Monday 2 hours of live streaming, I had this beautiful idea. There is this. Next week, what I would like to do will be, I would like to open some of your final presentations. What it means is that you have to try your best to upload something that looks as much as you can to your final presentation, even if the final presentation has some errors. Then what I will do is, like this, during the chat, I will ask who wants to ask things about the final. So what I will do is I will open, it's too thick, I will open final presentations, and I will during the 2 hours of the live stream, I will tell you how to solve issues about elements that you say, like Marco, let's say an example, Scarlett will ask me, Marco, can you go to the slide, to the page number 4? And then she will ask me, can you see those reflections on the wall? I don't like them. How can I solve that rendering issue? Or another classmate like Aru, she will say like, Marco, can you see in the slide number 3, I have a box that is a little bit crooked. How can I fix that box? And I will solve as many issues that I can next week Monday for in your final projects. So what you can do then will be this. I will give you, for this reason, 1 week more, so that May the 25th will be the day that I will stop accepting any upload for final presentation. Okay, so basically I will give you 1 week more, and May the 25th at 11 Italian time. So don't bother me if you say, I'm not here, I'm not there. No. May the 25th, so 1 week after your deadline, what I will do is that I will close all my Google Drive folders. Okay, so I will stop accepting your files, so that you have 1 week more. Also, last but not least, I will consider only final projects that are uploaded. Don't send them by mail, just to be more. No mail. Last but not least, till May 18th also, I will answer to your emails if they are related to the final project. After May 18th, I will give you just this extra week to give you a hand, but I won't answer to additional questions that you may have after May the 18th. Okay? Then, exactly, the final must be no 3ds Max, only presentation. Yes, for PDF, PowerPoint, JPEG. So if you don't know how to make PowerPoint, you can just make several JPEGs and put them in a folder. ODF, that is the open document format. No Keynote. So if you make your presentation with a Mac, I won't open Keynote files. Okay? So are these instructions clear? Because I will make no exceptions. So it is totally unuseful, for example, after May 18th, that you spam me my email and say, Marco, please, Marco, please, just one question. No. That should be your deadline. I'm just giving you 7 days more, so no additional request after that day. Till that day, of course, yes. Is it clear? Everything crystal clear? Because I don't want to say like, I wasn't able, I didn't understand. No, that's to be clear for all of you. Perfect. Very nice. I like this. Super clear feedback. And if this is clear, this is what to do for your final. So pretend that you have to make it for next week, because next week I will spend these 2 hours in answering your questions about them, and then you can refine it, let's say, into an additional week. With this being said, what we have to study today, because today the menu is very intense, And we have to check these things. First of all, we have to finish artificial lights by including last two parameters that we have missed last week. There are, we have to see intensity of light, we have to see shape of light, we have to see how to easily simulate instead sunlight by using something called sun positioner. We need to quickly, because it takes a second, to see exposure control. Couple of things more. Cameras. That look a lot of things, but they are really like 5 minutes each. And last but not least, don't know if it is still readable. We need to I want to show you like final render. Oop. There is my head here. I'll go like this. Final render, exactly. Parameters. Okay? And let's see if I can make the. I have to make final render parameters. Woohoo! Look at that. Okay? This is the 2-day menu, and let's see how to make all these things. First of all, let me see if I still have file that we have made last week, so that I can start from there. Let me see. Last week was May the 4th. I don't know. No. Let's see if it is this one. Probably yes. Probably was this the file that we have made last week. I think so. Yes. It is this one. Okay. So let's see this. Last week we have explored 3 parameters of lights. We have seen shadows, we have seen distribution, and we have seen the color of light, and we were here. I want to show you other parameters, like I want to show you the parameter that is intensity, that simply tells you how bright the light will be. So look, if I add another light inside my project, what you will notice is that it looks like this light is not giving any additional light to my project. And if I go to the Modify tab, I need to understand one parameter. So we know shadows, we understand the distribution, the color is white. So let's see this other parameter that is called intensity. Intensity is basically a number, this one, that works in a very straightforward way. That is, the higher this number is, the brighter my light becomes, and the opposite. So if I want to have this light very bright, I have simply to increase this value, okay, and it will start becoming more bright. To make these even more visible, not because, but what I will do is simply, I will delete some of these lights. Oops. Now this is it's a little bit exaggerate. But look, if I decrease intensity, you see that this light is very dark, almost invisible. If I increase intensity, my light becomes super strong. Okay? And another thing that to follow what we have started last week is that even intensity is a parameter that you can read if you want to simulate a realistic lamp. What it means. Look, last week we went into a website that was Philips. I just don't remember if it was this precise light or another one, but if you want, look, I am pasting this link into the chat if you just want to open the same page that I have. And I will see something interesting here. That is, when I read specifications of a light, last week I showed you the color temperature, but there is another parameter that is called the flux, so how much light this object creates, that has a number, that is this one. This photometric parameter has not only a number, but it has also a certain unit. So you can see that Philips describes the intensity of light by using a unit that is LM. LM is a photometric unit, so I will write it here. LM means lumens. And what is interesting is that how at the same way that for other dimensions there are more units, no? So just think about length. There are inches, there are centimeters, or for weight, there are kilograms, there are pounds, and stuff like that. Even for intensity, there are several units, and each brand and each person can use a certain unit or another. There are these three units, LM, there are lumens. There is another unit that is CD, and these are called candles. There is another unit that is called LX at, and this is lux at a certain distance that in general is 100 centimeters. So why you need to know these? Because maybe you can go to the Philips website and you will find intensity written in lumens, or you go to IKEA and you find intensity written in candles or whatever. So 3ds Max gives you the flexibility of choosing which units you want. So if you click LM, then it means that you are using lumens and you have to change the number. Or if you click CD, you are using candles as units. If you are using LX, you are using lux at, and as I said, by default, this is 1 meter. Okay? So simply according to the information, to the brand of the lamp that you want to simulate, you can use these three, one of these three units. Okay? Till here? Because believe it or not, intensity is just like that. It is a number that sets how bright or dark a light will be. And for example, I will delete all these colored spotlights. Oops! This is not the spotlight, this is the wall. And down here is another one. Perfect. Here there's another one. For example, if we want to simulate in this room, what happens if I really use just this Philips lamp? Well, I have to read that the color is 2800K. And I will see first of all that this light is very yellow. Also, I read that intensity, so lumens, is very, very small. It is 850 lumens. So I check LM, then I write 850, then I press enter, boom! And believe it or not, if in one room I just use one of that lamp, my room will be extremely dark. So I will understand that probably that light is a light that instead is better to be used as a table lamp, or it has to be a light that I have to use in a chandelier. So I have to say I have to use more of the same lamp to illuminate a space. So look, let's say I will need at least let's make 16. Look, if I have 16 lamps of those, so if I have a chandelier with 16 of those lights, then maybe yes, instead all of these lights will perfectly work in order to illuminate my room. Okay, so that I can use sorry, in the meantime I was reading a message that says, when I import a chandelier that I like to my project, it will come with intensity? Absolutely not. When you import objects, you import the geometry only. So light must be always made by yourself. You just import the shape of the chandelier. And also what is important is this: if a chandelier also comes, let's say if a chandelier, let's see if I can make a masterpiece in a second. Perfect. If a chandelier comes with the bulb lamps as well, what is here? Connect. Perfect. Then one. Don't mind what I'm doing. Then four. Then these. Then this. Okay. Perfect. Let's say your chandelier arrives with bulb lamps as well. So when you import it, it has also turbo smooth. Fantastic! Oh my gosh! Let me only move. Exactly. So, let's say you have bulb lamps on your chandelier. You need to be so nice to avoid a very common mistake that is this. If you have this object in your chandelier, you need to avoid a very common mistake. That is, a lot of people used to think that they need to place the light inside the bulb. So let me see if I can make a mistake. Okay. A lot of people used to do this. They just put the light inside the bulb, hoping that the light will go through the bulb itself. And you know what? This will never happen. So if you have a chandelier and you have also the geometry of your bulb lights, just be so nice to simply place the light just a millimeter, let's say on top, below, wherever. Let's place it here, let's say, close to it, but not inside it. Because when a light is inside a geometry, light is trapped inside the object itself. Okay? That is just a very, very basic mistake. So, let's continue with light, so that I will explain last thing. Now, the thing is, if you want to make if you give me a second, I will show you how it actually should be made, and to blow your mind away. So let me show you last parameter of light, that is this. There is a parameter that we have to use for multiple reasons. One of these is to solve the problem of having a visible light source. So check this. I have two problems to fix. Problem number one, I can see that the shadow projected by my lamp is too precise, and it is too fake. In reality, shadows are not that sharp, they are softer. So, last parameter that we need to know about lights is their shape. There is a parameter that you find after intensity. Shape of parameter fixes several issues. Main one is about shadows. So what you need to do is simply, if you open the menu, there is shape. You can see, no, you can see anything because there is my head. Sorry. You can see these options. You can see a point, line, rectangle, disc, sphere of light. And also in 3ds Max there are certain limits, there are things that are not possible to be done. So what you should do is, you should simply know that you can use light shapes according to which distribution you are using, and 3ds Max allows you only these combinations. There are if you, let's change the color. If you use uniform spherical distribution, you can correctly use as shape, you can use sphere shape or cylinder. If you use uniform diffuse or spotlight as shapes, you can only use rectangle or disc. These are combinations that work. And also, we will see that only these can be correctly set as renderable, and we will see what it means, because they are three-dimensional shapes. So look, these are distributions, these are shapes. So for example, if I want to make a bulb lamp, basically my bulb lamp is like a small sphere of light. So check this. I change shape. Instead of point, I set it to sphere. And I already fix my first problem, that is, look now at how shadows are changing. And you can clearly see that shadows are a lot more realistic. They are softer in edges. Okay? And also, the bigger the light becomes, the softer shadows will be. Okay? And if I make a sphere of light so big, in reality, what I am doing is, believe it or not, I am correctly simulating this kind of lights. Have you ever seen like lanterns that are made like paper lanterns, like that, like these? They are just a big sphere of lights, and what they do is that they diffuse light a lot and they create extremely soft shadows. And this is exactly what is happening into 3ds Max. If I want to make a tube lamp instead of sphere, I will select cylindrical. And I can change the radius as well as the length. And I will get the correct simulation of a tube light. Okay? But see this, because this would be too cool. Second problem that I have is that if I try now that I am setting this, let's say, to spherical, if I try to change my distribution to spotlight, you will see that spotlight is gone. And it looks like you can't anymore use spotlight. In reality, as I've written before, is simply that spotlight is a directional light. So, logically, it is not compatible with a sphere of light. Spotlight, in reality, look, if I search for spotlights In reality, spotlights like these, they are small discs of light. So look, if I change the shape first to disc, then I can correctly select again spotlight. And in this way, even the spotlight won't have those super sharp shadows, but you will start viewing, look, that shadow edges will be slightly smoothed. And you can also increase the size. And the bigger the size of my shape is, the more blurred and the slightly more realistic my shadows will start looking like. Okay? Till here? Because I just want to show you one last thing about shape that is phenomenal. But see this, if you select sphere and you have a spotlight, first of all, see what happens. Poof! Immediately 3ds Max changes the fact that if you use a spherical shape, you can use only uniform spherical distribution. But check my problem. Let's see if you can guess which is my problem if I make this silly thing. Look. Give me 3 seconds. I will try to make it as fast as I can. Here. Okay, so I need to rotate this thing like that. Perfect. And then let's put this light in here. Okay. Fantastic. Close, but not inside. Let's duplicate it. Instance. Let's select all these things. Shift and rotate. Three. Fantastic. And I will. It is missing the wire to connect it to the ceiling, so don't say that would be the problem. I will attach it like this. So now let's see this. First of all, I have my gorgeous chandelier. Okay, I will click render. When the rendering is done, you need to see if you find any mistake in my render. Beside the fact that it's too bright, wait a second. Let me make it a lot less bright. Okay. Ok, Okay, this is my rendering for you. For you. Which is the problem? What's wrong with this super yellowish rendering? Any guess? You are missing the chance to get A plus at the end of the semester. If you say it right, you will get. I will give you A plus. No. 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 That is correct. It is lighting the ceiling simply because I have bulb lamps that are closer to the ceiling. So when you have a bulb lamp like that, it works like this. Sorry. I know that you want, but take care, it's not A plus. It is A plus. What it means, I will give you plus after your grade. So if you have C, it becomes C plus. So no other. That is 100% correct. The chandelier shouldn't emit light because, let's say, if it would be metal light, no. Exactly. We have winner. Yay! Bulb itself isn't lighted. So what we see is we see these branches of the chandelier, but there are no actual visible lamps, visible bulb lights in this rendering. And this is a problem that can be solved in 3 seconds, simply because when you use a shape of light that is only sphere or cylinder, so it is a 3-dimensional shape, you can also check this additional parameter called light shape visible in rendering. And if you check this parameter, look, when you will render, you will see the exact same effect of light plus those spheres will appear as renderable objects, so they will appear like bulb lamps. Okay? And this works with 3-dimensional light shapes. So it works if you are using a sphere of light or if you use cylinder of light. Yay, we have a winner. I'm so sorry, but you have to know that in competitions there is only one winner. And let's see also with cylinder. So I'm making my free light. I simply change it. Look, this would be crazy beautiful. I change this, I keep it uniform spherical. I change it to cylinder. I give it a more realistic dimension, and I will make light shape visible in rendering. Then I will make it very, very dark, let's say 500. Okay? But now, see this. I rotate this one randomly, and I do this. I shift and move, and I make 6 copies. Take care, copies. And not because it is useful, but just to add a bit more dynamic, I randomly rotate them simply because I like it, but really this is for no meaning related to the light itself, just to look a little bit more interesting. So now I have these 7 lights. They are 7 cylindrical lights, but look what I will do. I will filter the color of the first, and I will make it red. Then and they are copies, so I change each one independently. Then I will make it orange. Then make it yellow. Then, no, this was already orange. This, orange. Then I select next one, and I make it yellow. Then I select next one, and I make it green. Then I select this one, and I make it bright blue. Then I select this one, and I make it blue. This one maybe is wrong. Check the color. Yes, I forgot to change this color. Okay. This one is green or not? Yes. And last one should be more or less purple here. Okay. So basically I have 7 lights with 7 colors. I render, and no, this must be green. Oh, beautiful green. Okay. So when I render, not only I can see them, but because I've also changed the color, probably the second one I've made the mistake, but not only I can see that if I have all spectrum of light, look, I have not even one white light, but basically my interior is almost white, I would say, because it is the combination of all different colors together. So not only I am using all these colored lights together, but I am also able to see where these tubes are hanging from the ceiling. Okay, so I won't see only the effect of light, but I will see also light source itself. Okay, is that clear? And also look, if I use a reflective material like gunmetal, and I make an object like a teapot, why not? Here. And I apply gunmetal to the teapot. If I render the teapot, I hope it's reflective enough, but I render. Fantastic. Okay. Perfect. And you will see that because my material is reflective and so on, is not only receiving light, but it is also reflecting all those beautiful light sources that are on top of it. Okay? Till here? Let me know something. Perfect. So now let's change completely our light source. So okay, now I want to show you instead sunlight. Sunlight is too easy to be created and to be managed. It is simply an object that you have to place in your scene. That is, by going to the menu that is called lights, you find an object called sun positioner, and by clicking sun positioner you just need to left click and drag somewhere in your project, not inside, outside, just place it. In general, I keep it far from my project, so if I want to select it or delete it, it is not inside the house itself. Also, it doesn't matter the size of this first component, just for visibility. But first of all, you left click, and when you release your left button, you need simply to set where is the north in your project. Okay? When you think like it is correct, you make left click. You need simply, again, for visibility, move your mouse to set the size of this object, but it doesn't matter if it is small, if it is big, really doesn't change anything. But finally, you have your sunlight placed inside your project. And first thing you may notice is that now your scene is over illuminated. It is too bright. Also, if I go to the Modify tab, in the sunlight, there are parameters that are completely weird because there is no like intensity, color, and so on and so on. While the only real thing that you can change when you manage the sunlight is you can change the date, time, and location. So if you want to change the intensity, the color, the angle of light, you can only adjust the time. So the hour of the day or if you want to be more precise, you can change even the minutes. Let's say 5. Poof. Okay. You can change even more weird things, like you can change the day of the year in order to see different seasons. And you can change the location. So if you want to simulate in a more appropriate way light behavior of your project in its real environment, you can also change the location by clicking location on Earth here, and you can pick the continent and you can pick places, okay? Or you can use Google Map and type the exact latitude and longitude. That, for example, for Florence should be something like 4113, I don't remember. Anyway, so this, first of all, is how you manage the sunlight. And again, is not more based on numeric parameters, but by the day, the hour, the season, and so on and so on. And when you use the sun, you see also that something unbelievable it will appear, that is, by using sunlight, your rendering background won't be black anymore, but if you render, you also have the sky and the atmosphere. There is only one problem, that is, everything is too bright. So, in combination with sun positioner, we need also to discover something called exposure control. Exposure control is something that it can be explained easily in this way. Look, when you are in a dark room, so inside, for example, and then you suddenly open the blinds on your window, your iris of your eyes have to close in order to compensate and to balance the fact that a lot of light is coming from the outside. So they have to change their size to balance the exposure, so how much light hits the back of the eye. Same thing happens on the opposite. Let's say if you spend 2 hours in your terrace and then you enter inside your home, for a second your house looks very dark because iris are very close, very tight, I would say, and they have to open to balance the fact that there is no light inside your house. So they need to change the exposure to balance how much light will pass through the eye. Same kind of concept happens in 3ds Max when you use different light sources. So if you use sunlight is super bright. When you use artificial lights, they are not that bright. So you need to balance the exposure. And the exposure is something that happens here. You must go to rendering. You have to click exposure control. Okay? And this is exposure control. Exposure control must be as it is right now, so physical camera exposure control. And to change it, you simply scroll down a little bit this menu here, and this number, the one that is called global exposure, is your exposure control. This number works in this way. If you want a darker image, you need to increase this value. But if you want a brighter image, you need, let's say brighter, you need to decrease this number. And instead of guessing which number you have to type, when you click exposure control, you have to also click render preview. so that you have, I know it is tiny, but it gives you the exact idea on how your image is going to look like, and you can see that it will be too bright. So I will simply now, with render preview clicked, I will increase this parameter till I like the effect that I'm going to have. For example, I render now, and look, I have not only my very dark mood at the sunrise kind of rendering, but I also can see from where the sun is shining. Okay? Poof! Exactly. And poof! Everything works. So, I need also to remember that, especially when I use my sunlight, when I change the hour of the day, I'm not changing only the angle of light. Look, let's say if from 5:30 I go to 8:30, I can see that I'm changing the angle and the direction of light, but I'm also changing the color and the intensity. So if I click again render preview, and maybe I zoom in to focus more on my project, I can see that by keeping that very high exposure, my outside will probably be fine, but the inside of my project will remain very dark. So, first of all, there is not like a right or wrong exposure value that I have to use. You have just to set it with your render preview. I will make it lower, for example, like this. And if I render, okay, it will look like that. So now what is my main problem? Can you see that the outside is dark and inside, sorry, the outside is bright, the inside is dark? What's the problem? The problem in this case, believe it or not, is my project. So, look, my project has this very long wall here. So this is cutting a lot of sunlight. My project has very small windows. Okay? And let me show you this. If I make this editable poly, let's say I change my project and I make my roof like that. I open another window because in this room there is a very small window only. So select these, compound, ProBoolean, start picking, pick that. Perfect. And I go back to the same view. Let's see if I find it. Was it this? Probably yes. So look, now I have changed the roof shape, opened another window, then it's render again. And you will start. Wait a second. Perfect. And you will start discovering that the light will enter inside your project if you have Windows. Okay? Till here, and then I will answer to the Scarlet question. But is it clear till now? Yes, no, maybe. Tell me something. Okay. Now Scarlett asks, any recommendation how to make the window, for example, a garden? There are multiple ways you can make this happening. There is only one problem. They are very complex. Very complex. Unbelievably complex. So, I mean, honestly, I don't know which one I should explain because they are all complex. Each method has a slightly different level of complexity. The one that is the easiest, honestly, the easiest is if you know to use Photoshop. That will work for sure. And if you use Photoshop, basically you make your renderings, then you open it in Photoshop, and then you stick a picture, and that will work for sure. And that is easier way. Another way you could do it is you, and this becomes to be slightly complex but a bit better, you can make big boxes, okay, and what you do is you look for, let's say, panorama. Let's say you want to show that there is Florence outside the window, no? So that you save this picture, textures, fine. But then see this, because this is a little bit more complex than you may think. So what you have to do is, where is my texture folder? Texture folder. Here. You drag and drop this into your material editor. You make a physical material and you basically use these as a texture, and you apply these to your box. You can also set visibility. Last but not least, you should make your bitmap as big as the box itself. So it has to be 1222 by 731. We have almost done. Now here there is a problem. There is this. Because I want to use this object as a background. So basically when I am in this view, through the windows, I will see Florence. Why there's no UVW? Wait a second. The box. box 3. Apply UVW. I mean, okay, box. So when I render, but it has box 3. Sorry. Stop. Box 3. UVW map. It has UVW map. So where's the problem? So don't show this message again. And it works. Can you see that? You can see the background outside the window. Which is real problem? Real problem is that this box is a geometry that is locking light to pass through it. Okay? So my light is basically blocked by the box itself. So if this happens and you just want to use the picture as a reference, what you have to do, this is the part that is complex, that is this. You have to select your light and you can't, so let's see now here. Oh no, object properties. General. And you can't. Let me see here. Light lister. Lights. Nope. No, you can't. So sorry. No, this method doesn't work anymore. No. I mean, in this case, honestly, better way would be you right click and you hide it. Exactly, let's do this. You hide this. And you make a rendering with light. For now, let's do this way. And let's say you save this in your computer. Then you unhide that. You make another rendering with the same view so that you have also the background. And then in Photoshop, you will combine these two pictures and you will cut just this part. I think, or directly in Photoshop. I think Photoshop is easier way, because if not, it becomes too complex. A lot complex. Okay? So let's say the answer to this question is, come on, use Photoshop. Is it okay? Because if not, you really need to go in too many options, too many things. It will take forever, and the result will be exactly the same also, by the way. So let me finish. Last thing, that is, can you see that I have this very narrow room in here, and with my mouse is very complex. No problems. It is very complex to go inside and taking views from the inside and so on and so on. So what I want to show you is also, yes, it's okay if you write Tanax instead of thanks. I can understand it. And see this, if you want to have a lot more control in the place that you are using to take your pictures for your renderings, you can more correctly use cameras. And cameras are just objects that you can create in 3ds Max. You have to use only or target or free camera, also because physical camera is just a camera that has control, exposure control, but we have already seen it. Corona Cam you have not, because I have installed an additional plugin called Corona Render, so if you don't use Corona Render, in here you won't see anything. So you will use only free or target camera, and I will show you simply what's the difference. Free camera can be created with one simple left click. Target camera must be created by left click and drag and release. Which is the difference in between these two cameras? The only difference, believe it or not, is the way you use to move them, because the free camera can be moved to change where the camera is, and it can be rotated to change what the camera is viewing. While target camera has the camera itself and the target. So you can only use move to move the target or to move the camera. But the target camera will always point at its target. So how to use cameras now? That's very simple, and it works like this. I simply press Alt W so that I can see all my viewports. And what I will do now is I want to see what exactly my camera is viewing. So right now I have only 2 cameras, and I can create as many of them as I want. But take a look. I click the name of my viewport. In this case is where I read perspective. And I can see that because I have created at least 2 cameras, I have inside the menu that is cameras, I have these 2 options called camera 1 and camera 2. And if I select, let's say, camera 1, what I do is I simply switch my viewport from perspective to what my camera 1 is viewing. So now, look, if I select my camera 1, that is the target camera, and for example, target camera is perfect when you have objects inside your scene that are your subject. So look, and this is camera 2, exactly. My bad. Look, this is the target, and I want my camera to look at the teapot. So I will move the target here. In another viewport, I will move the target up. And while you move the camera, you can see in real time in your viewport what exactly the camera is viewing. So I can move the camera up right now. And again, you will see that because this is a target camera, no matter where I place the camera, it will always look at its target. And I can move it up and down. I can move it left and right. But because this is a target camera, it will always point at its target, no matter where I place the camera itself. Okay? Free camera instead is a camera that has the same possibilities, just it works with move and rotate. So if I switch my viewport from the one that I have to camera 1, I will see that now if I move my camera left and right, up, to the roof, down here, or I can rotate it. So I can rotate it like this. Okay? This instead be a more let's say a simulation that is more like a person that is walking like a cameraman with a camera always pointed at a target. And also, the only real additional information that you need to know about cameras is that, can you see that cameras, when you select them, they show you this triangular shape. This is called field of view. And this is technically the only parameter that you may want to change when you use cameras. The higher is the field of view, that is in decimal degrees, the wider your perspective will be, while the narrower, the less things you will include in your camera. So, this is just a parameter. You select your camera. Here you have this weird thing called FOV. That is field of view. You decrease it. You have a narrower perspective. You increase it. You have a wider perspective. When you do this, you just need to point your eyes on lens. Lens length is a photography information. This shouldn't be less than 15 millimeters, because less than these images are too distorted, too wide, and they deform too much your renderings, and results will be, let me tell you, very unpleasant. But now that we know cameras, for example, I can basically enter inside my project and I can go inside. I can have more control in where the camera is, how tall it is, which angle, and I also can create as many cameras that I want to save basically these points of view, so that if I want I can render them and re-render them and re-render them. So I can start basically adding. Just to make an example, for my final presentation, you need to make 6 renders. You can place 6 different cameras in each position that you want. Then you select the camera in the viewport. You select the viewport, and if you click render, 3ds Max will render the view that is your selected camera, and not more perspective. Okay? See? Yes? No? Yeah? Da? Probably? Bacana! Perfect! I'm super happy by the fact that this works, because if cameras are clear, I want to show you the very last thing that you need to know about making your final renderings. That is, can you see that my renders are always, I mean, they are very fast, so you can see that it takes Paridi asks, can you show us some previous projects? Just an example. No. There is just one simple answer. There is no. Not because I don't want, I mean, because I'm bad. But because all my previous projects are at school. And I don't collect, as you may know, and I don't collect works on my email, absolutely. Not even in my personal laptop, that is the tool that I'm using. And so, no, I have not with me examples because they are into the school server, and I couldn't imagine that I couldn't go to the school till May, so I simply haven't copied any file from the server with me. So I'm so sorry. You just need to do your best, and maybe it's even better, so that you can set your own standard quality, and so that you have to do the best that you can. But I mean, I showed you, you know, when I showed you final projects, I showed you final projects of 3ds Max, the very first class. The very first class that we met, I showed you as examples at least 3 different final projects of 3 different levels. And yes, they were just students' final projects. And I mean, but I have no, I can't go to school just to take files. I mean, as you may know, if you need to go outside right now, you need to do it for very serious reasons, just basically like going to the supermarket. Okay? So, do your best. And exactly. I explained the 3 different quality, 3 different final projects with different qualities. That was one very good, one made, if I remember, by a student that had like years of previous experience, and one that was what not to do as final projects. So come on, you know what you have to do. No. Viewing final projects in general is just a lazy choice, so that you can copy the style of the presentation and stuff like this. So no, make it by yourself. So let me finish, so that I show you one extremely important last thing for today. That is, as you may notice, my renderings, when I click render button, rendering comes basically immediately, I would say, in a matter of a few seconds. And you can see that basically the rendering is fast, but the quality is extremely poor. My renderings are very noisy, the resolution is very small, and another thing is that even sharpness of my objects is a little bit pixelated. And I do these only for education, I would say educational purpose. So what you have to do instead when you are working with your laptop and when you want to make at the very end of your project, you want to make your final rendering so that it must look great, what you have to do is you have to change just 3 parameters in your rendering setup to achieve final quality level. I don't use them for 2 reasons. Simply there are. First of all, I can't stream and rendering at the same time good quality, because the streaming will start clipping and lagging. And also because there is a problem, that is, the more quality you want, the longer your computer will take to process your 3ds Max file. So let me show you these 3 parameters that you have to change. There are these. You go to rendering, you go to render setup, and you start by going to this tab that is called common, and you need to change the output size. Output size is the resolution of your image in pixels. So, as you may notice, right now this is 640 by 480. So what it means is that from here all the way here there are 640 pixels in my image, and from here to here there are 480 pixels. This resolution is very poor, it's very low. So first thing that I should do to achieve a better quality is I have to tell 3ds Max to render more pixels. More pixels. If you also read final instructions, it is written that my renderings should be 1600 pixels for width, 1200 pixels for height. So I want, why is not writing? I want here 8600 pixels for width, 8200 pixels for height. This is first parameter you have to change to start having more quality. Other 2 parameters instead are placed into the tab that is called Art Renderer. Oops, sorry. Here. Okay, you go to Art Renderer, and here you have to make 2 adjustments. There are the parameter called render quality. You set it to height. Not more, because if not, your computer will die. And to remove the noise, you enable the parameter called noise filter. And again, even here, you don't put it to the maximum because it would be too heavy, but you set it, let's say, to 75%. Again, I'm just touching things here. Okay? So these are 3 settings that you have to change: resolution, render quality, noise filtering. Okay? Believe it or not, I'm not doing it right now because it will take forever. What happens right now will be simply, if I click render, the computer will make a much higher quality. So the quality will go up with one simple price to pay, that is the time will go up significantly. So the more quality I want, the more time my computer needs to process informations from 3ds Max. If you see that you click render with these parameters and your computer will say it needs 2 hours to make a rendering, believe it or not, that is quite common. And don't even waste your time sending me emails like, Marco, my computer is taking forever to render. What should I do? Because you really don't want to hear the answer. Believe it or not. Because there is, it's not even a math function, but it's just good sense. There is, everything has a price. Quality can be paid in 2 ways. They are not the same, because if you change your the resolution, because someone asks do we use same settings for other programs like Corona Render? The resolution, yes, because this is common for all kind of plugins. But if you choose, let's say, Corona has other parameters. Basically is the same concept, because if in Corona you want more quality, you change the resolution, you change the quality higher, and the quality higher is by increasing the time. So let's say I will render for 2 hours, and in Corona you have to do the same. Just looking, you go to performance, where is no here, scene, sorry, and even in Corona the noise, you use Corona high quality the noise. So basically it is always same process, more time, more resolution, noise filter. Maybe they are called in a slightly different way, but concepts are exactly the same no matter which render engine you use. Okay? But as I was saying, there is something like this. Let's say you go to the market and you want to buy quality, and the seller says quality costs 3 hours rendering. And then you need, and you ask for a discount, let's say, and you ask, can I have same quality in 1 hour of time? And the seller says, look, if you want same quality at a faster time, the price to pay is a better laptop. So you really need to buy a faster laptop, because the faster the CPU is, the faster the rendering will be. But if you keep asking and if you keep bothering the seller and you say, no, look, I have 1 hour in my pocket and I can spend only 1 hour, no problem. If you don't want to pay 3 hours of your time to have a good quality, what the seller has to do is it has to cut the quality, and in 1 hour it will give you 1/3 of the quality, so a lower quality. So it is always like this. The more quality, the more computation. The more computation, the more time, or reduce the quality or increase the CPU. So last question, so that then I will go to prepare lunch for my kids. How can we install Corona or other render programs? Well, that's simple. You go to websites where they sell these softwares, then you click download, then you click install, and you just need to be sure that when you install these softwares, 3ds Max is not running. So let's say you install Corona, then you open 3ds Max, then you have to set that Corona will be your render engine from here. It will appear here. And believe it or not, even here there is always a price to pay. What it means, let's say I use Corona, then I go to my material editor and don't do like another student that says, Marco, my computer doesn't work, and so on and so on. Because if you use Corona, then you can't use Autodesk material library, because Corona is made by another company. So you can use that huge library of preset materials. But you have to make your own materials by yourself, or using the Corona material library that you may download when you use that software. Okay? Because the render engine, remember, manages rendered pictures, lights, and materials. So you can use Autodesk materials, you can use Photometric. It is for free. It is for free for 45 days. Then it is not more for free. For a student, it costs 25 euros. Corona. Same for V-Ray, same exact thing, but V-Ray is slower and more expensive. And it is not for free either. Other questions? You have 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. So, it has been a wonderful lesson. You know everything you need to know to make your final. So don't forget to upload whatever you have made for next Monday, so that I will use in a very productive way next 2 hours. No, I mean, we won't be able to use AutoCAD. First of all, it's not AutoCAD, it is Autodesk materials if we use V-Ray. And the answer is no, as I said. Really. Because they are compatible with Autodesk softwares. V-Ray is made by Chaos Group, so you have to use V-Ray materials. Yes, yes, yes. It's very straightforward, I would say. Okay? Perfect! It has been a pleasure. Bye, everyone. Yes, Autodesk, I know. And it has been a pleasure, and we will see next week, Monday, with your unbelievable, almost finished final projects. Okay? See you. Bye, everyone.